Hi everyone and welcome to Bear Clooney Watches channel. Before we start today's topic, please do me a little favor. Click the pause, subscribe to my channel, and help genuine watch enthusiast channel without hidden agenda. So simple. Back to the topic. Well, you could see the intro. So it is a bit controversial, but before you click dislike, before you get upset, give me a chance to explain. First, for those not familiar with horological collector watch geek lingo, a shitter is not necessarily as harsh as it sounds. A shitter represents, in a simple terms, cheap watch. Most of the time. Sometimes we get carried away and express our dislike for a certain brand or a certain watch utilizing the same word, but overall it is predominantly utilized to describe the watch of a lower quality. Not a fashion watch, they're garbage, they're microwave Chinese dog shit. Now, what we're talking about is watches that certain watch collectors respect. So, I start this whole video with intro that says that Bear can tolerate certain shitters. Why am I using the word tolerate and not necessarily love? Well, maybe because I'm a watch snob, maybe because slowly I'm realizing that watch of that quality on my wrist does not give me satisfaction as the watch of the higher quality. Maybe because the more you know, the more you discover, the more you understand, you come to a conclusion that these watches are cheap for the reason. Or maybe because it is actually very wrong to assume that collecting these watches will get you in the right path when it comes to our hobby. And I'll explain what I mean by that. My predominant concern and predominant issues with cheap watches are that the service component for the watch, and we all know that watches get to a point where they need to be serviced, exceeds the value of the watch, which ultimately makes it disposable. So when you're looking at that as a factor, it's very simple. I perceive watches as a small pieces of art, as heirlooms, as something that is meant to last generations. And when I look at shitter, all I see is a watch that will give you a very short period of satisfaction, experiencing something interesting and different. But in reality, it's not an heirloom. It's not a watch for generations. It's not a watch that is going to last. And I think that's my main issue with shitters. The second component of my dislike comes from the fact that some YouTube channels base their existence on shilling disposable watches. Let's use that term rather than shitters. And public is much bigger because so many more people can afford to buy a watch in a price range between $0 and $300. So obviously the channels are larger. They see the opportunity of skimming and shilling and making personal profit so they can buy Rolex and shill you watches which have no real value rather than being disposable little time toys. So, not to point the fingers, but that guy, Jody, with just one more shitter, or let's say the bearded guy that yells a lot, the time yeller, channels like that, not necessarily just them, they basically have become factories of production of very misleading information. The horological journey is beyond what they offer. The horological journey is about discovering high-quality timepieces. Mind you, you don't necessarily have to be purchasing them, but research, education, analysis, statistics, they're available to you, and you can actually educate yourself and become a connoisseur of a higher level quality. That doesn't mean that as a watch collector, you should completely stay away from shitters. Why? Have some, have fun, no problem. And you know what? I am not discouraging you to experience watches of inexpensive nature. But be aware of what their advantages and disadvantages are. I have them. I had few, more than few. You know, it's very easy to jump on it and start getting excited about those watches. And in that journey, in me personally experiencing inexpensive, cheap watches, I did find those that had a certain unique characteristics that were to my liking. And you will too, and that's fine. But you know what hurts me? What hurts me is when I see people influenced by channels that I mentioned, collecting these watches in such a large numbers and assuming that these are some exceptional collections. They're collections of toys, they're collections of disposable watches, fine. You know, people collect all kinds of things. My wife, when she was a little girl, she was collecting napkins. Hey, why not? You can collect whatever you like, but don't lie to yourself and assume a position that you are actually watch collector. You know, I've seen collections consisting of 40, 50 of these type of watches. You know, that's a value of, I don't know, $10,000, maybe. You can have a fantastic, proper watch collection for $10,000 consisting of 2 pieces, and you will be owning heirlooms. You will be owning pieces that are timeless. So, what's my advice? Have fun, have fun. Experience shitters. Understand shitters. But in the same time, do not forget what makes this hobby unique, specific, interesting. It's a research, it's a gaining knowledge, becoming more refined in your taste, knowledge, and starting to appreciate things that are of a finer nature. So that's it. That's my position on so-called cheap watches. Now, I shown you some of them that I tolerate or like or whatever you want to call it. And now we are going to actually take a look at 2 of my favorite shitters. And for the first one, we're ready to go to Bear Clooney's watch studio. Let's take a look at Vostok Amphibia.
Расцветали яблони и груши, поплыли туманы, 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 туманы.
And here we are at Bear Clooney Watch Studio, and we are looking at the Vostok Amphibian diver. charming Russian diver. The things I immediately like on this watch is the blue dial. A watch impresses me with its charm rather than quality. From the list of the watches that I listed as my 6 favorite or most tolerated shitters, this watch is actually least expensive, cheapest among them. This watch you can purchase for 50 to 75 US dollars. And when it comes to watches of this nature, they need to impress you with something rather than quality. And I think what impresses me on this watch is really Russian ingenuity. When I look at this watch, I always think about Second World War and how Russians managed to defeat a superior German tank, King Tiger, by mass production of a very dependable, robust, easily repairable T-34 tanks. And to me, this watch is the T-34 tank among the watches, or Kalashnikov gun among the watches. And truly, I think this is the component, this is the part that also appeals to me. The steel case measures about 41 millimeter across, with sensible lug-to-lug span of 45 millimeters. So this watch actually does wear really nice on the wrist. This is on my 7.25 inch wrist. It has the domed crystal, acrylic crystal. So that's another charming element of this watch. My eyeball test estimates that the glass rises somewhere between 3 to 4 millimeters above the rest of the case. And that is the part actually about from the purpose of this watch, because this watch actually works on its water resistance by pressure that water provides on the deeper levels that watch goes. Despite its height, I find that Scuba Dude is actually a very comfortable watch from the perspective of how it feels on the wrist. So when it comes to the movement, it's a hand-winding, automatic, mechanical, straight out of the 60s. It's easily repairable watch. It's also quite resistant to shock. And one thing I do want to highlight here is do not get worried when you get this watch for the first time and you unscrew your crown and then you pull it out and you find that the crown is wobbly. That's actually normal. It's actually part of how this watch is built. And I'm not going to go into those details, frankly, because I think it's boring. And I think if you are interested to find out more, you can actually do research on your own. Now, the movement is the Vostok 2416. So it's a movement that, let's say, it works. The accuracy, well, I would say it's probably about 45 seconds to a minute per day. Fast in this case. I actually prefer that it runs fast to opposed to slow, and I don't know why that is. It's just a kind of my thing, how I feel about it. It is the watch that I would say biggest criticism on this watch I would have about the bracelet, but then there are days I think, well, you know, there's something charming about it. It's almost like it's made of some kind of cheaper metal, and it's a pressed metal, but actually, and it's very jingly. But you know what? What do you want? What do you want for the watch that cost 50 US dollars to 75 US dollars? It's a watch that has a charm. It's a watch that is working horse in a real sense of the word. The movement Vostok 2416 is easily repairable, functional. The thing I wish, to be very honest with you, is because it doesn't have a quick set date, I actually wish this watch is no date, and I would like it so much more. But hey, I guess it is what it is. So there you go. That's a Vostok Amphibia. Let me give you a little bit of a background on the watch, how it all started. Well, the story goes that in the 1960s, Russians needed to develop a watch for a certain diving rating. By the way, this watch is 200 meters diving rating. And being a communist nation, they were not keen on the idea of purchasing patents for such a technology from the Swiss. So they had a group of engineers which were tasked with replacing their results while operating within the limits of Soviet's industrial capabilities. Typical Russian approach. What they came up with, this was Amphibian, a watch that utilized the domed crystal, as I was talking earlier, and the rubber gasket. So under pressure, the watch components actually squeeze in on themselves, creating a tighter seal as the wearer descends into the depth of the water, of the sea. And there you go. That's kind of the way they were thinking about it, made it functional. And you know what? This is what you can comfortably dive with. It is a unique construction. So this movement I mentioned, 2416, is actually a movement that is strange, if nothing else, because of that wobbly crown. So I don't know. It actually what happens here. It gets disconnected from the shaft, right? So that wobbly feel makes you actually kind of feel it's broken. It actually provides. It's meant to provide additional protection to the mechanism, and I think it's even in that aspect unique. So there you go. There is a bit of the background on this watch and how this all came about. Let me just do this crown. It's a screw down. It's a screw down crown. So here we go. It's a bezel that's just inertial. It's a bezel that doesn't click. Here you go. It's still functional and it's smooth. It doesn't get off the position easy, which is important. It's a bidirectional. There you go. It's you can say, well, it's a hazard. It's dangerous because it can move while you're diving. Well, people, come on. Serbs and Russians are much tougher than most of you, so don't worry about it. Anyway, that's the story on this inexpensive watch, which is still with me and it will stay with me. And there is a certain connection with this watch and liking for this watch. I purchased it on eBay from Russia. And there you go. Now, let's jump back to the Bear Clooney's watch, the Bear Clooney's cave, and we'll go from there.